All right, so today we're diving deep into the Kansas City real estate market.
Yeah, it's been making headlines.
It has. It really
A
has.
lot of investors are turning their heads that way.
For sure, and for good reason, it seems like. We're going to
Hmm.
unpack why that is, and we're also going to explore how Alpine Property Management Kansas City can help investors navigate this landscape.
Yeah, it's an exciting time.
Especially with what we're seeing nationally, there's talk of a cool down,
Hmm.
but it seems like Kansas City's kind of holding strong.
Yeah, the numbers definitely support that.
Right, so KC Today reports that the average sale price in Kansas City climbed to almost $368,500 this year,
Wow.
which is a 3.6% jump from last year.
Yeah, that's pretty significant.
And Zillow's data shows an even bigger year-over-year increase of 5%,
Yeah.
with the average home value now at $242,000.
And are those just listing prices or are these?
These are sale prices.
Wow, okay.
So homes are actually selling for those amounts.
That's incredible.
And get this, homes are selling in an average of just 32 days.
That is fast.
So things are moving quickly.
Yeah, so if you're thinking about investing in Kansas City, you've got to be ready to move quickly.
Absolutely.
But it's not just hype driving this market. There are some really solid fundamentals supporting this growth.
Right, we were talking about some of the big companies
Yeah.
like Garmin and Cerner
Exactly.
creating jobs and attracting new residents.
Absolutely. And the city itself is investing in improvements as well.
Like what kind of improvements are we talking about?
Well, they're doing things like a new airport terminal. They've expanded their streetcar lines,
Oh, wow.
all things that just make Kansas City a more appealing place to live in.
Right.
And that obviously translates to a stronger real estate market.
So it makes it more appealing to invest in as well.
Exactly. What I find interesting about Kansas City is that the growth feels very organic.
What do you mean by that?
Well, it's not just speculation driving the market,
Right.
like we saw in some other places maybe in the past.
Right.
The economy in Kansas City is diverse,
Hmm.
and the tech sector in particular is actually growing faster than the national average.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, according to Real Wealth.
Okay.
So that's a really positive sign for long-term stability.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, it's not just a flash in the pan.
Now, of course, after what happened in 2008, when we talk about real estate, there's
Yeah.
always that little voice in the back of everyone's head saying,
Yeah.
is this a bubble?
Is this going to crash?
Is it going to crash,
Yeah.
right? Is that a valid concern here?
Well, it's always smart to be cautious. But honestly, the data that we're seeing suggests that a crash is pretty unlikely in Kansas City.
Okay. Why is that?
Well, for one thing, lending standards are much stricter now than they were back then.
Oh, that makes sense.
And as KC Today points out, inventory is still really tight.
Yeah, we were looking at those numbers earlier.
Right. Only 2.2 months of supply.
Now, for our listeners who maybe aren't as familiar with the real estate lingo, can you explain what months of supply actually means and why it matters?
Absolutely. So months of supply basically tells us how long it would take to sell all the homes that are currently on the market at the current pace of sales.
Okay.
So a low number, like 2.2 months, indicates a very strong seller's market,
Okay.
which means buyers might face a lot of competition
Right.
and they could end up paying close to or even above the asking price.
So that's something to keep in mind if you're looking to buy in Kansas City.
Definitely. You need to be prepared to maybe be in a bidding war.
Yeah, you need to be ready to go.
Right.
So with all of that in mind, is now a good time to jump into the Kansas City market?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is. It really is.
And it really depends on your individual circumstances and your risk tolerance.
Sure. So KC Today actually has some interesting insights from local real estate agents.
Okay.
And they're saying the buyers are actually getting a little more breathing room now
Oh, interesting.
as inventory slowly increases. So they're not feeling as pressured to make an offer immediately on any property that they see.
So there's a little less of that frenzy.
Yeah, there's a little less of that, like, got to jump in right now.
Gotcha.
But then on the other hand, Real Wealth highlights rising rents in Kansas City as a factor that could make buying more appealing.
Right, especially if you're looking for long-term financial stability.
So it's almost like there are strong arguments on both sides.
Yeah, it's a really dynamic market.
It is.
And it's important to weigh all the factors before making a decision.
So how can our listeners figure out which side of the fence they fall on?
Well, that's where a company like Alpine Property Management Kansas City can be incredibly helpful.
Okay, so let's talk about Alpine Property Management.
Sure.
What makes them stand out? Why should people be considering them?
Well, they really understand the nuances of the Kansas City market.
Mhm.
They know the neighborhoods, they know the trends, they know the potential pitfalls.
Oh,
Plus, they handle all aspects of property management, which can be a huge relief for investors, especially those who don't actually live in Kansas City.
so for someone who's maybe a little intimidated by this whole process,
Yeah.
Alpine can kind of hold their hand and guide them through.
Absolutely. They offer personalized guidance, and they can connect investors with other resources like Kara Painter, who's a local real estate agent.
Oh, okay. So let's talk about Kara Painter then.
Sure.
Tell me more about her expertise.
Well, she's with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, All Pro Real Estate, and she's known for her ability to match buyers with their ideal homes.
Okay, so she's good at really understanding what people are looking for.
Exactly, and her local knowledge is super valuable in a market like Kansas City, where each neighborhood has its own distinct personality.
Right, because you can look at numbers all day long, but having someone who understands the feel of a neighborhood,
Exactly.
that can be really invaluable.
Absolutely, and Kara focuses specifically on areas like Platte City and Parkville.
Okay, and those are becoming increasingly popular with investors.
They are. They offer a little bit of a different vibe compared to the heart of Kansas City.
Oh, how so?
It's a little more suburban, a bit quieter, but still within easy reach of the city.
Okay.
And it's really attractive to families who want good schools, maybe more space.
I see.
So yeah, it's a different kind of market.
So it sounds like diversifying your portfolio beyond just that urban core.
Yeah,
That could be a smart move for investors in Kansas City.
it's definitely something to consider.
So we've established that Kansas City has a lot to offer investors. But let's get into some specifics.
Okay,
Which neighborhoods are hot right now?
right.
And what kind of price points are we talking about?
Well, Real Wealth highlights a few neighborhoods that are attracting a lot of attention right now.
Okay.
Places like Brookside, Waldo, and Lee's Summit.
Oh, I've heard of those.
Yeah, each area has its own unique appeal, you know.
And its own price range.
Exactly.
Right. And Zillow provides some interesting data on median home values in different neighborhoods.
Yeah.
For example, in Northeast Industrial, the median home value is under $80,000.
Wow, that's very affordable.
It makes it much more accessible for investors.
Yeah, definitely.
But in areas like Pendleton Heights and Columbus Park, you're looking at median home values between $250,000 to $310,000.
Okay, so quite a bit higher.
Yeah, so there's quite a range.
And what about the River Market area?
Oh, in the River Market area, Zillow's data shows a median home value around $280,000.
Okay, so somewhere in between.
So there's a little bit of something for everyone.
Right, depends on your budget and your investment strategy.
Exactly. So is Kansas City's market expected to stay strong beyond 2024?
That's the question everybody wants to know.
It is. Is this going to last?
Right. Well, based on the current trends and projections, yeah, Kansas City seems to be poised for continued growth.
That's good news.
It is. So what's contributing to this optimistic outlook?
I don't know. You tell me.
All right. Well, Real Wealth actually mentions a few major developments that are in the works right now that are expected to have a significant impact on the market.
Let's hear about them. What kind of developments are we talking about?
Well, for starters, there's the South Loop project,
Okay.
which is a massive undertaking to create this sustainable urban park connecting the Central Business District with the Crossroads Arts District.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's ambitious.
It's huge. It has the potential to really transform that whole downtown area.
And what about the new Kansas City Royals ballpark?
Oh, yeah, that's another big one.
That's a huge project, right?
It is. It's a $2 billion project that's going to revitalize the whole surrounding area.
Wow.
It'll bring new hotels, residences, entertainment venues,
Right.
on top of just providing this state-of-the-art facility for the team.
So that's really an investment in the city's future.
Exactly. It's a big statement.
What other developments are coming up?
Well, there's the Berkeley Riverfront development. That's another one to keep an eye on. It's an $800 million project to create this mixed-use urban village along the Missouri River.
Wow.
So bringing new residential and commercial spaces to that area.
And I've also heard things about the West Bottoms redevelopment
Yeah.
and the Barney Alice Plaza reconstruction.
Those are big projects.
These are all pretty significant.
Yeah, and those are just a few examples of
Right.
the many initiatives that are happening in Kansas City.
It seems like there's a lot going on.
There's a lot of energy, a lot of investment pouring into the city.
So that coupled with the strong economic fundamentals
Exactly.
and the growing population,
Yeah.
it seems like Kansas City is really positioned for continued growth.
It definitely seems that way.
But of course, we have to acknowledge that there are always risks involved with any investment.
Oh, absolutely.
So what are some potential challenges or downsides
Yeah.
that investors should be aware of in the Kansas City market?
Well, that's a really important point because no investment is without risk.
Right.
And Kansas City is no exception.
So what should investors be cautious of?
Well, one potential concern is oversaturation.
Right.
With all this development and all this investor interest,
Mhm.
there's a risk that certain areas could become overbuilt,
Okay.
which could lead to a slowdown in appreciation or even a decline in property values.
So how can investors mitigate that risk?
Well, it really comes down to doing your due diligence.
Hmm.
Don't just jump into any deal.
Right.
Carefully analyze the market.
Okay.
Do your research on specific neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
Really understand the trends before you make any decisions.
And that's where working with a company like Alpine Property Management can be so helpful.
Absolutely. They have their finger on the pulse of the market.
Right.
They can provide those valuable insights.
And they can connect you with local resources like Cara Painter,
Exactly.
who can offer that on-the-ground perspective.
Yeah, that local knowledge is key.
Now, before we move on to part 2 of our deep dive, I want to bring up one more factor that could potentially impact the Kansas City real estate market.
Okay, what's that?
The 2026 FIFA World Cup.
Yes, the World Cup.
Now, I know none of our sources specifically mentioned it,
Right.
but I think it's definitely worth considering.
Absolutely.
I mean, we're talking about a massive global event
Yeah.
that's going to put Kansas City on the map
Mm-hmm.
for a whole new audience.
Sure.
So that kind of exposure could have a ripple effect on various sectors, including real estate.
I agree. It could attract a surge of investment,
Yeah.
potentially drive up property values even further.
So it's something for investors to keep an eye on.
Definitely something to watch.
Okay, we're going to pause there for now. When we come back in part 2, we'll delve deeper into specific investment strategies and opportunities in the Kansas City market. And we'll also discuss how Alpine Property Management and Cara Painter can help you maximize your investment potential.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the Kansas City real estate market. So before the break, we were talking about some major developments coming up.
And that potential wild card,
The World Cup.
the World Cup, yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. But for now, let's actually focus on some specific opportunities for investors in this market.
Okay, let's get down to the nitty-gritty.
All right. So one of the things that makes Kansas City so appealing to investors is its affordability
Okay.
compared to other major metro areas.
We were talking about that earlier, how it's lower than the national average.
Exactly.
So how does that translate into tangible opportunities?
Well, it creates a much more accessible entry point for investors,
Okay.
especially those who are just starting out.
Okay.
And when you combine that affordability with the strong rental market we were talking about,
Mhm.
you've got a really attractive recipe for some good returns.
So buy and hold investors might find Kansas City especially appealing,
Yeah, absolutely.
more so than maybe some other markets.
Potentially, yeah, because the data from Real Wealth shows that rent growth in Kansas City has consistently outpaced national averages.
Wow. Okay.
So that means you can generate some really solid cash flow from rental properties there.
So if someone is interested in that buy and hold strategy,
Yeah.
which areas of Kansas City should they be looking at?
Well, Real Wealth specifically mentions Independence, Raytown,
Okay.
and South Kansas City as areas with really strong rental demand.
What's interesting about those areas?
Well, they offer a unique mix of affordability and potential.
Yeah.
Raytown, for example, has a really diverse economy
Mhm.
and relatively low housing costs.
Okay.
South Kansas City is rapidly growing
Oh, okay.
with a lot of new investment pouring in.
Interesting. So they both have a different flavor.
Exactly. Different kind of opportunity depending on what you're looking for as an investor.
Real Wealth even mentions Topeka, Kansas.
Yeah, that was an interesting one.
That's a little bit outside of the immediate Kansas City area, isn't it?
It is, but it's worth considering because it has an incredibly low cost of living and a very central location within the state.
Okay.
And some people are speculating that it could become a major logistics hub in the future.
Oh, wow.
So there's potential for some really significant growth there.
So if that prediction comes true,
Yeah,
that could be a really, really good investment.
absolutely. Imagine the demand for rental properties if it becomes this major transportation hub.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
It could be huge.
So it seems like there are a lot of different avenues investors can explore,
Mm-hmm.
but we have to be realistic. There are always challenges.
Right.
What are some obstacles that investors might face in Kansas City?
Well, competition is definitely a factor,
Okay.
especially in those highly desirable areas.
Mm-hmm.
It's still a seller's market.
Right.
So finding those hidden gems and actually securing deals,
Yeah.
it requires a keen eye and a little bit of hustle.
You really got to be on top of it.
You got to be ready to move.
Yeah, I imagine that could be daunting for someone who's not familiar with the local market.
Absolutely. That's why having a knowledgeable local agent on your side can make all the difference.
And we were talking about Kara Painter earlier,
Yeah,
the local real estate agent who partners with Alpine Property Management.
exactly. She's got that expertise.
It sounds like her insight would be invaluable.
Yeah, she can help investors identify properties that really match their goals.
And her focus on Platte City and Parkville,
Mm-hmm.
that seems particularly strategic.
It is. Those areas are becoming really popular.
We were talking about how they're more family-friendly, that suburban vibe.
Yeah, it appeals to a different segment of the market.
Right.
So diversifying your portfolio to include properties in those areas.
Okay.
That could be a smart move.
So it's all about understanding those different pockets of opportunity
Exactly.
within the broader Kansas City market.
Yeah, and that's where Alpine's experience and market knowledge really come into play.
Right. They can guide you through that. And they don't just help you find the property.
Yep.
They manage it for you as well.
That's right. They handle everything.
Which can be a huge help.
From tenant screening and rent collection.
To maintenance and legal compliance.
That's all taken care of.
So that really gives investors peace of mind.
Especially those out-of-state investors.
Sure, can't be there all the time.
Exactly. They know their investment is being looked after.
Okay, so let's circle back to those major developments.
Okay.
How do those factor into all of this?
Well, those developments are really game changers.
Okay.
The South Loop project, the new Royals ballpark,
The Berkeley Riverfront development.
all of those are going to have a significant impact on surrounding property values.
And Real Wealth also mentioned the West Bottoms redevelopment,
Right.
which is transforming this historic area into a vibrant mixed-use district.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing.
And the Barney Alice Plaza reconstruction,
Mhm.
creating a brand new public park and convention center.
Right in the heart of downtown.
So it seems like all this development is injecting new life into the city,
It's breathing new energy into Kansas City.
attracting new residents, businesses,
And investors.
of course, and investors.
It's exciting to watch it unfold.
But with all this growth, we have to acknowledge there are always risks.
Of course, no investment is foolproof.
So what should investors watch out for?
Well, like we mentioned before, oversaturation is a potential concern.
Okay.
With all this development and investor interest,
Yeah.
it's really important to carefully analyze the market
Okay.
and choose your investments strategically.
Right. You don't want to just jump in blindly.
Exactly. You don't want to get caught up in the hype
Right.
and end up with a property that doesn't perform.
So do your research.
Do your research. Take your time.
Talk to the experts.
Absolutely.
Like Alpine, like
we,
Kara
we
Painter.
can guide you.
They can help you make informed decisions.
It's all about finding that balance
Mm.
between seizing the opportunity.
But also making smart, informed decisions.
Exactly. You don't want to be reckless,
Right.
but you also don't want to miss out.
And then there's the World Cup,
Yes, the wild card.
the wild card.
The 2026 FIFA World Cup.
It's a global event
Yeah.
that could really boost Kansas City's profile.
And attract a surge of investment.
All those visitors,
Yeah.
all that media attention.
It's going to be huge.
It could have a major impact on the real estate market.
It's definitely something to watch closely.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
Oh, yeah.
We've explored the opportunities,
It's a challenge.
the risks,
And that wild card.
the potential impact of a major global event.
It's exciting.
We've seen how Kansas City's affordability,
Yeah.
its strong rental market,
Mhm.
ongoing development,
It's attractive.
makes it attractive to investors.
It does.
But we've also highlighted the importance of careful planning,
Absolutely.
due diligence,
Yeah.
working with experienced partners
Like Alpine.
like Alpine Property Management.
Yeah. And Kara Painter.
So for our listener, what's the key takeaway here?
What should they be thinking about right now?
I think the overarching message is that Kansas City offers a really compelling opportunity for real estate investors.
It does.
But it's not a guaranteed path to riches.
Right.
It requires a strategic approach,
Hmm.
a willingness to learn,
Yeah.
and a commitment to making informed decisions.
It's not about jumping on the bandwagon.
Right.
It's about understanding the market,
Doing your research.
identifying your goals, and developing a plan.
And that's where Alpine can help.
Absolutely. They can provide that personalized guidance,
Connect you with local experts like Kara Painter.
help you navigate all the complexities.
So if you're intrigued by what you've heard today,
Yeah.
take that next step.
Reach out to Alpine.
They offer consultations.
tailored to your needs,
They'll answer your questions, give you those insights.
and help you develop a plan that makes sense for you.
Don't let this opportunity pass you by.
The Kansas City real estate market is dynamic and full of potential.
Now is the time to explore what it has to offer.
Yeah.
All right, so welcome back to the deep dive. We've been unpacking the Kansas City real estate market.
Yeah, it's been a fascinating conversation.
It really has.
Looking at all the different angles.
From those impressive growth numbers we talked about
Mm-hmm.
to those exciting developments that are on the horizon.
Right, and all the potential it has for investors.
And the importance of making those informed decisions.
Absolutely.
Working with experienced partners.
Like Alpine Property Management.
Right, and Kara Painter.
Yeah, they can really make a difference.
So if you're listening to this, chances are you're thinking about investing in Kansas City real estate.
Yeah, hopefully we've piqued your interest.
So what's the big takeaway here?
What should our listeners be thinking about?
I think the message is that Kansas City offers a really compelling opportunity.
It does.
But it's not a magic formula for instant wealth.
No, it takes work.
It takes work. It takes planning.
And research.
Research. You got to understand the market and
Absolutely.
the risks involved.
Because there are always risks.
There are with any investment.
Hmm.
So it's about making those smart decisions,
Yeah.
leveraging that local expertise.
And having a clear, long-term vision.
And that's where Alpine really excels.
They do. They offer a really comprehensive set of services.
They can help you find the right property.
And manage it effectively.
And their partnership with Kara Painter.
Yeah, she's a real asset.
She really knows the Kansas City market.
Inside and out.
So together they've formed this really powerful team.
They can guide you through the whole process.
So if you're feeling intrigued by what you've heard today, we encourage you to take that next step.
Reach out to Alpine.
They offer those personalized consultations.
Tailored to your investment goals.
So they'll answer your questions
Offer insights.
and help you develop a strategy.
That makes sense for you.
Don't miss out on this opportunity.
The Kansas City real estate market is dynamic.
It's constantly evolving.
And now is the time to explore what it has to offer.
And as we wrap up,
Yeah.
we want to leave you with one final thought.
Okay.
We talked about the 2026 World Cup.
That wild card.
That wild card.
A global spotlight on Kansas City.
Imagine the influx of visitors,
The investments.
the economic activity.
It could have a huge impact.
Could this be the catalyst that propels Kansas City's real estate market to even greater heights?
It's a question worth pondering.
It is. So as you embark on your investment journey, keep that in mind.
Yeah, the World Cup can change everything.
All right. Thank you for joining us on the Deep Dive.
We hope you found this conversation helpful.
We'll see you next time.